Thank you, Honourable Chair, honourable members. Good morning, Mr. O'Sullivan.
Good morning.
I hope you got some sleep.
No?
Okay, I'm sorry about that. It's beyond my control. Okay, can I just recap? We've got a limited time available. So some of the questions that I'm going to put to you, I would appreciate just a yes or no answer, unless you want to elaborate here and there. I also just want to assure you that you have deposed to an affidavit, a sworn affidavit. It's part of the record. It would have, should have been read by everybody here today. And when it comes to the evaluation or assessment of the evidence, both written and oral, it will be taken into account. So to the extent that you might be or might have been concerned that you didn't get an opportunity to go through all the allegations that you make in your affidavit, they will be considered. And of course, there will still be questions from the honourable members, and to the extent that you refer to your affidavit and the annexes, I can't predict that, but you're obviously at liberty to do that. So the topics that we almost certainly won't get through, but there's a whole list, and I'm just referring you and the honourable committee to the index to your statement. There is criminal activity within PKTT, the slush funds, the secret service account, taxpayer funded trip to Japan for a friend in inverted commas of Khumalo, Mkhwanazi's alleged role in kidnap and torture. Commissioner Masemola is part of the problem, you allege. Allegations of state-sponsored hit squads at work in KZN. You question that adverse effect of Khumalo's conduct on the criminal intelligence, or crime intelligence, sorry. Mkhwanazi's, what you describe as lies to the Commission and Parliament. Mkhwanazi's secret business dealings, outlandish lies you allege by Nkabinde and Pashlani. The criminal syndicate against you, claims of infiltration by you of IPID and other organs of state, some miscellaneous matters. You question or ask the question and you answer the question, who is ultimately to blame for what you describe as mess we are in today, and how can the criminal justice system be fixed? What we want to focus on are really four big topics. General Mkhwanazi's statement on the 6th of July and the aftermath of that, the so-called slush fund, then IPID and SAPS infiltration as alleged, and the spyware grabbers issue, which actually has been addressed by quite a few witnesses. I think the last witness was Brigadier Shlungwani, who was the accounting officer at the time. So perhaps we shouldn't, unless you have anything to add there. So perhaps let me kick off with the alleged IPID infiltration and SAPS. Do you know who the current director of IPID is? Executive director, sorry.
No, Chairman.
Who is the last executive director of IPID that you interacted with?
Since 2018, I haven't interacted with any executive director of IPID, Chairman.
Have you recently, or put another way, when is the last time that you referred any complaints to IPID?
It was the complaint which I laid against General Pashlani in January or February 2016.
Yeah. And you haven't laid any complaint with IPID since?
That's correct.
Is it your evidence today under oath that you've had no contact or interaction with IPID since 2016?
No, Chairman. I had interactions with them until 2018.
Now, again, just for the record, you deal with that from paragraph 146 onwards. It's on page 50 through to page 60. Yeah.
Correct.
And so what's your response shortly of allegations that you have infiltrated IPID?
Well, it's a blatant lie. I've not infiltrated IPID. What happened, Chairman, very simply, very shortly, was that I opened the docket against Pashlani in February 2016. For 10 months, IPID flatly refused to investigate that docket. And the reason they flatly refused to investigate it was because IPID was part of the state capture project at that stage. When McBride was reinstated after the Constitutional Court found his suspension unlawful, I immediately had a meeting with him and I said to him, I opened this docket 10 months ago. Nothing has been done about it. We have a corrupt acting commissioner of police. And over the next 2-3 months, we brought IPID up to speed with the investigation that we'd done in the previous 10 months when IPID refused to investigate. And then we left them to get on with it.
Yeah. Now, one of the burning issues that has cropped up in our hearings has been the visit by you and members of IPID to the Sable Hills estate, the house of General Pashlani. In what capacity, firstly, did you visit the estate? I think it's a fact you did.
I visited the estate first time in February 2016. And I went there to look at a property.
That's at paragraph 147.1 on page 51.
Yeah, I went to look at a property there. And I did that because I had information about the house that had been built. I'd been on Google Earth and I had Google Earth history and I downloaded Google Earth history. And that's all contained within my statement, which I gave to IPID in February 2016. And I had the dates of the photographs under each.
Okay. But just to get to the point, you visited the estate with some members of IPID.
I did that in November 2016 after Robert McBride came back.
So under whose direction or authority did you visit the estate with IPID members?
So, Chairman, what happened was they asked me to show them what I knew. And I said to them, if you get the building plans.
Who's them?
The lead investigator is the late Mandla Mshlangu.
Yes, he subsequently was murdered.
He was murdered. In fact, they threatened to kill him and me at the same time. And that's in my evidence.
Okay, so let's just get back to Sable Estate.
So he said, we'd like to meet you at the estate. So we met just down there's like a spa shopping center or something over the street. So we met there and they had a single cab IPID vehicle. And I said, if we go with this, it means we're going to have to take 2 cars. And I've got a SUV. I said, why don't we go in my SUV and we can all sit in it? Because he wanted me to go and show him the house. And he asked me to go. And he said, you drive the car. I said, no, I'm not the IPID official, you're IPID official, you drive the car, and you show security your badge and whatnot. And then we went in, and then I showed them where the house.
So is that what happened? You went in your vehicle
We went in my vehicle.
because it was bigger,
Yes, but he drove.
and he drove the vehicle. And when you entered the gate of the estate, he showed to the to security, gate security, his
ID,
badge, his
yeah,
ID,
Yeah,
and you went in on that basis.
that's correct.
So the gatekeeper or the security person there would have assumed that you also part of the IPID contingent.
I don't know what the gatekeeper assumed. I didn't speak to him. But what happened was we then went to the estate manager's office. Now, because I've been involved in a lot of property development, I understand how it works. None of the IPID officials have ever been involved in property development. So they asked me to accompany them to the estate manager's office to obtain the drawings. And they asked the estate manager for the drawings of the house, because I said, if you get the drawings, we'll be able to get the exact square footage or square meter.
Did you take photographs of the house?
I already had those photographs from when I'd been there with the estate agent
So you'd been there previously,
in February 2016
and that was on your own
on my own.
with the estate agent, or did
Correct.
you meet the estate agent?
No, because you can't get into the estate. The estate agent took me in his car,
Yes.
and then I asked him to drive me around to see how the estate looks.
Yeah.
Of course, I was there for a reason. And I said, oh, that's a nice house. Let me have a look. And I took a picture.
Yeah.
And that's the picture that I used in my complaint.
Okay. And now, subsequently, you were charged.
Yes, the Mabula team unlawfully arrested us. And in fact, they charged the IPID members as well. And I think that's very well documented, because in fact, what happened was IPID went to court and obtained a court order to stop the counter investigation being carried out by the Mabula team. And they succeeded. They got an order to that effect. And that put a stop to the counter investigation. But in the meantime, I wasn't only arrested and charged, I was detained again. My assistant, she was my corporate counsel, Sarah Trent. She was arrested and detained for 2 nights in appalling conditions.
Yeah.
They took her cell phone. One of the members of the Northwest team flew to Israel with her cell phone because she wouldn't give them the PIN code. They flew to Israel with the cell phone, and they broke the cell phone open to download the contents of the cell phone, which was all unlawful.
How do you know the official flew to Israel?
Because they had to prove the contents, how they got the contents of the phone. And they submitted affidavit, what they call a chain of evidence affidavit, in the alleged, you see, when you get...
Because we need to close off on this topic.
Okay.
So when you get a charge sheet, you ask for further particulars, or your
Correct.
counsel would,
Correct.
and your counsel would then be entitled
Yeah.
for the state to demonstrate the chain of evidence, to be
Correct.
satisfied that it's genuine, authentic, or whatever.
And not only that, they submitted the same documentation to the Zondo Commission.
Yeah.
Because they tried to show the Zondo Commission that they hadn't done
So
it.
did that document demonstrate that they actually went to Israel?
Correct.
Who in Israel, or which other organization in Israel why Israel?
Because there's a company in Israel which works for Mossad, which is the secret, service of Israel. And that company specializes in cracking cell phones. So they're able to open a cell phone if you refuse to give.
So at that stage, when they decided to go to Israel and to Mossad, who would have been the executive there? Who would have authorized that trip, assuming it was authorized?
I'm assuming it was General Mabula. He was the head of this team, this Northwest team.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't General Mabula, it would have been General Pashlani.
Okay. So these messages were retrieved. And so just to conclude, I'm sure you'll get some questions on this aspect later. What happened to the case that was brought against you?
I think after 7 or 8 months, after repeated appearances in court, it was struck from the roll. But not only was it struck from the roll, IPID launched a High Court application to have the Mabula team investigation declared unlawful. And the court issued an order to that effect, that the Mabula team were no longer allowed to be involved in that investigation.
You make it, sorry, Mr. McBride. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, I think the questions were asked about that. That was a 342A application. When there's a delay, then you can ask.
That is correct.
Yeah, but the matter was just struck from the roll. Of course, it's still alive potentially. It can still be re-enrolled. You weren't acquitted or found not guilty.
It was struck from the roll, and 10 years later, nothing.
Yes, so let's not get too technical, but that's the point. It's still possible that it may be reinstated anyway. Yes, of course, the prospects after some, 7 years or so later, that it hasn't been reinstituted. The other aspect relating to IPID I want to raise with you is that 147.9. There's a reference there to 200,000 rand that of your own money, you say, that was contributed towards the fees of his lawyers.
That's correct.
He was represented by
Adams and Adams.
Alan Suzman Foundation.
No, Adams and Adams.
Oh, Adams and Adams. They represented the amicus in that case.
I
think McBride was represented by.
No, Helen Suzman Foundation were amicus, and they were represented by
I think
Weber Wenzel.
All right.
So McBride was represented by Adams and Adams, and the reason I made the donation was because, having opened the docket in 2016 in February, by the middle of the year, nothing had happened. No investigation was taking place. And I was satisfied that the country's police service was being run by a corrupt commissioner of police.
Okay, so would Mr. McBride have been aware of your contribution? Was the contribution to him personally, or did it go to the lawyers representing him?
I paid Adams and Adams. I didn't discuss it with Mr. McBride. I paid the VAT on it as well. It was
yes. If my memory serves, he wasn't aware of a personal contribution made by you to his legal fees.
No.
Okay. All right. So what, in brief, what was your relationship with Mr. McBride? Did you, in effect, without being officially designated, become part of IPID investigating people like General Pashlani?
The only work we did in terms of investigation was between February 2016 and the period when IPID took a decision to carry on with the investigation, because from February 2016 till November 2016, no work had been done on the investigation whatsoever. So once they decided to carry on with the investigation, we spent the next 4 to 6 weeks to bring them up to speed, and then we stood back and left them to get on with it.
Okay. Now, and subsequent to that, you say or certainly in recent years, you haven't had any contact with IPID, interacted with IPID?
No dealings whatsoever. There might have been 1 or 2 cases where we've dealt with regional offices of IPID, for example, in Mpumalanga, There was a case there where we found that there was allegations of a police official receiving bribes, but it wasn't the chief of police, it was a captain. So we helped the complainant open a case with IPID there, but that would have been 3 or 4 years ago. And I wasn't involved in that. It was one of my staff.